All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is a beautiful day almost in the city of Houston. It's sunny, it's lovely. Not yet, but it is in my imagination. And that's where most things start. So, how's everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone has started their day off with some positive energy. Coffee, that's the best way to start it. Get started. So, what I'm going to be doing going forward, guys, is trying to do one of these lives at least for a few hours every morning. And it'll give each one of us an opportunity to communicate and chat and talk. And, I'll probably be doing some editing in the background, but it's not necessarily what these lives are about. It's just, something that I do. I find, ways to entertain myself when I'm not working on a specific project. Or you spend working at something, the better you get at it. And that's just the key to anything. I don't care what it is you're trying to accomplish. If you spend enough time working at it, you will perfect it. So I practice a lot, whether it's photography, videography, business, marketing, whatever it is, riding my bike. So I enjoy a lot of different things in life, but the key to a lot of it for me is experimentation. So I get out, I do what I can, I learn from others, and I think that's one of the most important things that we can do, is to find and surround ourselves with like-minded people that can help inspire us, to go forward. I see, tons of YouTube videos of people, basically browbeating you to death, about why you didn't succeed or, why your life is not what it should be. I think your life is exactly what it should be based on, a whole lot of different, variables. But it does not mean that you can't improve your life. You can improve your life on so many different levels. I mean, it just depends on what it is you want. I think nothing is more interesting to me than when I, say good morning to people during the week through text or something like that. And they'll say to me, "Oh my God, it's Monday. I hate this job." But, and it's always a but. And the but usually is it's a job. It pays the bills. And, that's where most people are stuck. They're in a position where they're like, I want to do something different. I definitely want to improve the quality of life, but I'm stuck in this rut. Well, I don't think that's necessarily true, in all cases. But, for a lot of people, that's just the reality of their world because of, choices they made, in life. But, and I always say but, is that we can improve upon those things and we can do better if we choose to. The problem, I think, most of us, is that fear factor of, the unknown. What if, this doesn't work? What if, I start, trying to start a business or something and it fails? Well, if you don't try, it's definitely going to fail because it'll never manifest itself. So I try to learn something new every single day. Now, does that make me special? No, not at all. It just makes me another nerd, because I'm always interested in, how someone else does something or how they approach a different problem and how they work out their own solutions to it, and then maybe somehow I can take from that and I can use that, in something that I do. Oh, that's not good. Nope, that wasn't good. But I'll fix it. So like anything else, we learn, We experiment. We try to find what works for us. And it's the same as with, when I think about photography, I look at it like any other type of business or any other type of experiment. Everything, all those variables that we take into consideration, when we're setting up for a photo shoot or something, are the same variables in a lot of ways that we have to think about when we're dealing with just life itself. What if this goes wrong? You don't want the complete anxiety, on a daily basis that you're so worried about every little possible thing that could go wrong. But it is better to be prepared than to just be standing there, holding, holding on, hoping, that somebody will come and rescue you because you were not prepared. And I don't mean, in every situation, you just got to go crazy and, just try and figure out, oh my God, what if this happens? Or what if the light, falls over? Or what if my lens locks up? Or what if my camera doesn't work? Or what if the models don't show up? Or what if? What ifs will drive you insane. I mean, literally insane. So I would say, for a lot of people, yes, anxiety is a real thing. And we have to figure out why, we're experiencing this on the levels that we experience it. Maybe it is, something that's happened in our past that's triggering these things. Because I believe that, depression is people who focus on the past. Anxiety are people who focus on the future. Most people don't realize that they're doing this. And I mean, I have experienced levels of anxiety in my life, on a daily basis and didn't even realize what it was I was experiencing. I was just thinking, I was just, me, I might be thinking, oh, okay, I want to go for a ride this night, tonight or something. And then I'll kind of talk myself out of it. I'll be like, well, I haven't done this in a while. And what if, my bike really needs an oil change, or, what if the tire blows out, or whatever it is. So you start to play these scenarios out in your mind of all the what ifs. And the only thing that will do is slow you down and keep you from doing anything with your life. And that's the last thing that you want, well, most of us anyway. I'm sure there's someone somewhere going, no, that's exactly what I want. What are you talking about, dude? And I'm like, okay, you're the one, or one of the ones. But, we're going to try and make do with the best that we can. So, a lot of times, like I said, I use, editing and photography sometimes as therapy because it is very therapeutic. Creating is therapeutic, so if you're going to, create something based on your experiences in life, so like say, for instance, you say, well, I want to be a chef because I'm a good cook. Okay. Well, I know it's expensive to start a restaurant. And I mean, there are many restaurants that have failed just over the last year. I mean, look at 2020. Think about how bad things got for so many people. But does that mean restaurants should no longer exist because of what happened in 2020? No, of course not. What it means is we have to learn from that. And we have to some degree, prepare for the inevitable of something like 2020 happening again. It can happen again. It will most likely happen again because it has happened before in the past. So this is not something new. We feel like it's something new because it was so large of an event that we experienced, globally. This wasn't just something, that just happened in Texas or Arkansas or California, whatever it was, like a wildfire that only, or a tornado or hurricane. So the world experienced this, and we learn from that. So as we grow, as individuals, and we grow our businesses, we have to take that into consideration. I need to have a rainy day fund. Most of us don't. And I mean, I admit, many times, when it was, and you look at the photography industry, it's feast or famine. If anyone who, is in, one of these creative fields, they'll tell you, you have your months where, man, you just cannot, put the phone away because it's just people calling, booking everything, wanting something. And I mean, their checkbooks are wide open. And then you'll have your months where, you couldn't give your services away. So you have to plan. Many of us didn't do that in the past, but we've learned from it. And, we will most likely start to, identify that, going forward. We won't make those same mistakes again. Well, at least hopefully we won't, but, it is what it is. So what is it that you guys have always wanted to do, always had in the back of your mind, like, man, if I could only get, this, or if I could only find that thing or start that thing, what would it be? And what are you missing that is preventing you from actually doing it? Is it funding? Is it the anxiety of the possibility of failure? And I mean, for a lot of us, it's all those things. I remember when I first decided I was going to really pursue photography, I was in the limousine business. And, I had a limousine and, I was surrounded by other people in the limousine business. And, one of the things that I used to hear from them all the time, oh, web design, oh, photography, man, don't mess with that. It's so oversaturated. But then I was the first person they would come to every time they needed a website done, every time they needed some graphics or they needed something to market their business. So I'm saying that, to kind of give you guys a little bit of insight. I was good enough to do it for free, but in their mind, I wasn't good enough to do it as a profession. You know what I'm saying? So don't fall for the okie doke. Everybody that is never going to see what it is that you're trying to do the way that you want to achieve it, right? So what I mean by that is, if you believe in it, don't worry about how many other people don't believe in it. It doesn't really matter. If you think it can work, then make it work for you. If you want a food truck, get a food truck. Start with just, pop-ups. I remember a long time ago, thinking about food as an example, there was a guy that had a pop-up restaurant. Now, it was on kind of like a weekend scenario. And it was in a really small room next to a Kroger's. And it was attached to the Kroger's building. So it was like what would have been like an external office or something. It was literally large enough to put in a few appliances for this guy to, to cook whatever he was going to cook. But what he was able to achieve was just mind-boggling. And I remember when I had my limousine service, I had clients that would literally, contact me every weekend, for a bus or a limo. It's so funny, just to go over to this guy's little restaurant. And they literally lived, this is how silly this is, they really lived about 4 or 5 blocks away, or maybe a mile or so away. But they knew they were going to be drinking. They knew, all those things were going to be variables. So they didn't want to be drinking and driving, and so on. But they would have to bring their own tables, their own liquor, because the guy didn't have a liquor license. They had to bring, if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember if they had to bring their own plates and, forks and stuff like that. But he basically had achieved in such a small venue something that big restaurants couldn't do, that had been open for decades, which was just mind-boggling to me. When I really thought about it, I was like, wow, this guy is literally running a restaurant, with no restaurant, amenities. He didn't have a bunch of tables outside. He didn't have wait staff. It was just one dude, and every once in a while, he'd have someone there helping him or something like that. But, for the most part, it was just him. And yet, even with just that, he had tons of people that couldn't wait to come out, and experience, his food or whatever it was. And I mean, they loved it. And I mean, I would see, and this is long before there was Instagram and, a big, internet presence like on Facebook or something like that. But I would be driving around, throughout the week, and I would run into his, flyers about this event. And you would think, okay, well, this guy's putting out a lot of flyers, so he's really marketing himself, which is, logical. That's what you should be doing, right? Well, it wasn't him. It was literally the people that enjoyed his food so much. They were the ones doing the flyers. They were the ones that were telling everyone about, his little pop-up restaurant. And that's how it became so popular. And I think that's a version of crowdsourcing before there was, the term crowdsourcing. So all of that said, to kind of get to a point, is that sometimes we have to find our cheerleaders in whatever it is that we do. And those cheerleaders may not necessarily look like you. They may not come from your environment. They may not even share the same DNA as you, meaning family or something like that. But those people are out there, and they will appreciate everything that you do, everything that you work for, and they will, shout it to the rooftops, hey, check this guy out. Hey, check this girl out. Look at what she's done. Look at what he's done or doing. And, every one of us have seen one of those sitcoms, where, the artist is, no one knows who this artist is. And, someone finds them, in some obscure flea market or garage sale or something. And like, oh, we got to know who this person is. And then they find them, and then they market that person, and boom, overnight, they're this major success, right? And you say, well, that happens on television. Well, you got to remember, everything that we see on TV, every movie was inspired by something that was either real or at least believed by a lot of people. And I mean, if you're a Marvel fan, and you say, oh, wow, I'm really into Marvel and I'm into DC or, comics. Well, a lot of that, comes from a lot of different mythos from all over the world, whether it's, from Africa or from Egypt or from Greece or, the Romans, whatever it may be. That's where a lot of that stuff came from. That's the level of stories, the demigods and things like that. So it's not new. It's just being brought to people in a new format. So they're like, oh, this is something that's so amazing. I've never seen this before. Yes, you have. You just didn't identify what it was that you'd seen. So, it is what it is. But with all that said, you can achieve anything you want to. You just have to find your tribe. And I can't emphasize this enough. Your tribe. And that doesn't necessarily, again, mean your family, your loved ones, your significant other. This could be, people, obviously, many times it's going to be people you've never met before, but you may not find them in the most conventional ways, Facebook or, joining these different groups and, oh, I'm going to, I'm creating shea butter. So I'm going to join all the shea butter forums, and I'm going to communicate with all the people doing shea butter. The problem with that is you are surrounding yourself with your competition. Not saying that you couldn't learn something, from someone who may be a little bit further along than you are, but what you're really doing is, spitting into the wind. Because if all of your marketing, all you do is post in those same groups, surrounded by people that are trying so desperately to do the same thing that you're doing, you're not going to achieve anything that way. That's not how marketing works. You need people who don't know you, who don't follow you. When I work with models, one of the first things I tell them is that, you need to set up a separate Facebook page, a separate Instagram, different than your personal one, that, you share with your family and friends and stuff like that, because the things that you want to post, the things you need to post is so different than what, your family is accustomed to you posting. So spend your time marketing yourself. The young models starting out, the first thing they're like, oh, I have to find an agency. And, and that was the case, for many, many years. We all know that, Ford, IMG, all the big agencies, whether you're in a small town or, a big city, you know these brands. But today's marketing is different. Today's marketing is all about exposure. And how can I best get exposed to, people like myself? I mean, people who are interested in my product. And you get there many times by looking for people or looking for formats that are completely different than what you normally would be associated with, right? So if you are a chef, okay, and you want to do a food truck or something like that, then you want to look at your local community. Where are you going to be, where's your truck going to reside? Is it going to be in Fort Bend County, Worden County? It's going to be in, some other city. So those are the groups that you want to start looking at, where those people reside. Say, okay, well, how can I find, people who may be interested in my product? Well, today we have all these tools. We have Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and, we have all these different ways of creating content and getting that content out in front of people. The problem with it so many times is that it's so overwhelming. We don't know where to get started. And a lot of times people will say, oh, I have no clue, where to get started. So they start going to Facebook and they start going to YouTube, and everything they see is something new. So they continually experiment. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. You can experiment. Experimentation is good. I mean, that's what I do almost on a daily basis. I'm constantly experimenting and learning, from things that I think will benefit me as an artist, for what I create, right? But at the same time, I have to realize the marketing, the business side of what I do must be present, So that means I have to spend as much time or a large percentage of my time focusing on getting my services in front of people that are actually going to utilize my services, that are going to spend money, say, hey, I need a photographer for an event, or I need someone to come in and, shoot some corporate headshots or some product photography or whatever it is. And I mean, like in any industry, there's a lot of competition out there. So, what can you do to minimize that for yourself? Well, in some situations, you might say, well, what can I do? What can I do? Well, I'll just start, posting all over the place. Well, yes and no, that works to some degree. It's like the shotgun mentality. Just throw everything up against the wall and hopefully something will stick. And, for some people, that formula works. For other people, it's just a complete waste of time. And then when they don't see an immediate reaction, if they don't see, someone almost instantly coming along and say, hey, I found your ads and I really want to hire you, or I want your food truck, or I want your service, or whatever it is, then if they don't see that right away, then they start to lose interest because they think it's not working. But it takes time. So as you learn anything about marketing, you only get about 6% of a return on what you put out. So if you put out 100 flyers, you're only going to get 6% of that back at best. If you put out, 100,000 flyers, just do the math. So it's not always about, how you market. I mean, how much you market, it's how you market. If you can find organizations that can benefit from your services. Sometimes in the beginning, you may have to be willing to say, hey, I'm going to have to give them a really good deal, so that I can get the exposure. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. So, it's just, you got to play it, ear for ear as to, how will these things work for me? And like a lot of us, we had to learn these things the hard way because it wasn't so simple to just, pop up and go one day, I'm going to open a business and I know exactly what I'm doing and I'm just going to just throw all this stuff together and then boom, it's going to work. Well, it doesn't always work that way. And it almost never works that way. But, each person is going to spend a little bit more time learning. So I say, get out, create something and start there. Start small. I'm not saying quit your job or, you know, just give up on everything that worked so hard to, accomplish, because you still have bills to pay, but it doesn't mean that you can't still grow a side hustle and then turn that side hustle or your hobby into something amazing, over time. So that's what a lot of us has done, I mean, I tell you a story. The way I got into the limousine business was because I wanted to be a photographer and I wanted to shoot weddings, way back when, before I knew better. But I wanted to shoot weddings. So a friend of mine says to me, hey, you should drive limos. And I'm like, why would I want to do that? He says, well, if you drive limousines, then you will be with your clients, the bride and groom the whole time. So then you could also do the photography. Well, on paper, that sounds like a great idea. In reality, it's a nightmare. But it was the start. So I started driving limousines, because I felt like, hey, this might be something that'll work for me. And I did it. And I went from driving limousines to owning my own limousine company to owning, part of a nightclub to, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur almost my entire life. I mean, I look back, when I was much younger and I started out, with Black Stallion Cleaning Service. So I decided I was going to open this cleaning service, for like buildings and stuff, offices and things like that. I was really good at putting together the graphics and the business cards and all that kind of stuff, right? But I had no clue how to run a cleaning service. I had no idea what needed to happen next. I just didn't know. But all of those steps, in life, it teaches us so much. As we grow and as we, start to experience life, we look back on all the things that we tried to do and we didn't quite understand it. But we look at it now and we go, oh, now that makes so much more sense. I could have done it this way or I could have done it that way. Yeah, well, we live, we learn. So it's the same in life, in business, whatever it is. It doesn't really matter what it is you do. You just you have to find your path. And sometimes to find your path, you have to be willing to do these things with and for other people. Because a lot of times you can achieve success helping someone else grow. Think about, your coaches and your motivation coaches and things like that. What do those people do? They basically convince you to be successful. And by that, they become successful because they become successful at teaching people how to be successful, if that makes any sense, right? Okay, that's way, way too much detail. Let's bring that down. We want texture, but we don't want to go that far. Personal looks very unrealistic. But, and then I missed the texture area right there. See that? So now I got to go in and paint in some texture, or I could just clone it in. So let's do that. But let's go here. What do we got? Ooh, that's way too high. So all I'm saying is that life, from 2020 is a perfect example. can throw us a loop, but it doesn't mean it has to be the end. We can learn from it and grow from it. And that's my goal, these days, is to find that balance, where I can say, I'm happy with what I'm doing, I'm successful at it, and I have room to grow, you know. And I think that's the goal for almost anyone, who's trying to do anything. So let's see what we can do here. What do I want to do with this? Let's first crop it. And so I'm just playing, guys. I'll find things like this and I will just look at how I could create something like this for a client and then figure out what should work. So that's not good. I'll bring that in a different way. But, like I said, like anything else, we just have to experiment until we get to a point that we're just really happy at what we're doing. And I mean, just like with me, I am never, ever happy with anything that I create. I don't care how many people tell me, oh my God, that's just amazing. How did you do that? And I always see something wrong with it. And in some ways, that's a good thing because it keeps you on a level of trying to constantly evolve what it is that you do. Because you're not, one of those people will just say, hey, this is good enough. The recipe is good enough. A master chef will always, always be trying to improve upon the dish, improve upon the technique. A friend of mine, way back when I was in like grade school, his dad was a chef. And I remember, we were in the band. We used to go over to their house all the time, and we would practice in their front yard, and things like that. Drums, and we'd have some of our friends come over from the band, and we would just go through different cadence and stuff like that. And I remember hanging out with his dad one day in the kitchen, and he started talking to me about his career. He'd been in the military, and that he wanted to be a chef, and he became a chef after leaving the military. And he says, one of the key things that you must learn in the beginning is to be able to, and I'm probably not going to say this right, but basically in a nutshell, what he was trying to emphasize to me was that, and I kept this in my heart, and I do this literally every day. When I cook, and I learned this from him, every step I do, everything I do, by the time I finish the meal, I've completely cleaned the kitchen at the same time, except for, obviously the pots and pans where there's food in them and things like that, right? So he's basically what he was trying to teach me was, it's all those little steps, the things that happen in the background that most people don't see, is the things that ensure your success. So, a master chef will clean or demand that the kitchen be cleaned and things be put away as you're preparing or right after you prepare something. And I mean, for health reasons, you would want that anyway, but it is what it is. So anyway, guys, I have come to a point in this photo where I'm just going to kind of leave it as it is. I just wanted to experiment with this image. I see a couple of things that I don't like that I can go in here and fix. But like I said, you'll see these, in everything we do, there's the levels of perfection, right? Find what works for you. I could go in here and just really lose my mind and try and get rid of all these flyaways and all this other stuff. But I think in some images, when things aren't perfect, that makes them perfect, if that makes any sense. It's the imperfectness of something that makes it unique, which by definition makes it art, to some degree. So, and that applies to many things. We just need to be perfectionist in the things that matter and accept the things that we cannot control and move on. So it is what it is. So I wish everyone a wonderful Sunday. I hope you guys have a beautiful day. I'm really hoping the sun comes out because I want to get in that wind. I want to get on one of my bikes, go for a ride a little bit later without getting drenched. So I'm constantly taking a look at the weather to see what's going to be happening next. And I'm hoping it's going to be nice. But if it's not, there's always tomorrow. All right, guys. I will catch you guys in the next live tomorrow. Tomorrow. I will talk to you fools tomorrow. Stay safe. Wash your hands. I know we're not wearing masks anymore, but you know how we do it. Look out for those who are too stupid to look out for themselves. All right, people. Peace. I'm out.